Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I built this entryway shoe cabinet. These are the measurements for this project. However, this cabinet was made for our entryway. It can be different in other homes. As usual, I started off cutting all the wood I needed. I used only one 12mm thick plywood sheet. I made these cuts using my plunge saw and I placed pieces of scrap wood underneath the sheet to avoid damaging my workbench. These are the pieces you should have after all the cuts. For the legs, I used a 4x4 timber that is 4 cm thick. I had this leftover piece in my workshop. Then I drilled pocket holes in two sides of each leg. As a next step, I routed out the tracks for the sliding doors on the top and bottom, then the side panels. I used a 9mm thick router bit for this. The only mistake I made here is that I routed the tracks all the way so they will be visible on the sides when the cabinet is assembled. Then I moved the fence 2mm further and routed them again. This will help the door sliding inside the track without getting stuck. This track is for the outer door. After this, I routed another one for the inner door as well by moving my fence further away, leaving a small gap between the tracks. This is how the panels should look by now. After that, I routed 9mm holes on the back and the two side panels for the shelves. I did not make these holes wider, the shelves fitted perfectly in them. Once again, I should not route this all the way as these tracks will be visible on the outside. I simply divided the length of the panels by 4 and that made the distance between the three shelves 20 cm in this case. I used a stop block for the side panels in order to avoid routing them further than it should be. This is how the back panel and side panels look after routing them. Using my chisel, I made the end of the track square so the shelves can fit nicely into them. I did not want to add any knobs onto the doors. Since the cabinet is a bit narrow, I decided to drill holes into them to be able to open and close. I started by drilling the hole on one of the doors, then I lined them up, making sure that the edges are flush, and continued to drill the hole into the second door. With a fine sandpaper, I sanded the edges and inside the holes. After sanding everything with 80, 120 and lastly 300 grit sandpaper, I applied a coat of Tung oil on them, except the outside of the panels. I finished those later on. I started assembling the shelves first. It should be longer than the back panel by 5 mm on each side. Then I installed the side panels, putting glue into the track where they meet the shelves. I clamped them and I waited for the glue to set, then I added some wood glue between the side and back panels as well. While the glue was drying, I added the bottom panel using wood glue. I don't have long enough clamps for this, so I decided to add a couple of screws to make this joint really strong and allow the glue to dry. I drilled pilot holes first to avoid splitting, and I countersunk them so the screw heads are flush with the surface of the panel. Here I had to be careful to don't put my screws where the tracks are for the doors. When the glue dried, I added the top of the cabinet using only wood glue here. I carefully placed the cabinet on top of the bottom panel and aligned them on all sides. When I placed the doors into the tracks, I gently lifted up the cabinet just as much I could fit them in. I added this corner clamp to help keep them in place while the glue was drying. The doors were sliding perfectly, so I could move on to add the legs. I added wood glue for extra strength, then I placed each leg in the way that the pocket holes are facing inside towards the middle of the cabinet. When choosing pocket screws, make sure that they are not too long, because they can pop out on the other side right into the tracks of the doors, and it can cause some problems while sliding them. As a final step, I applied a coat of Tung oil on the outside of the cabinet, and it was finally done. Thank you for watching. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Hit the bell notification to get notified when we upload the next one. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram.